Call a meeting to order. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, welcome everybody. This is our regular city council meeting for April the 28th of 2025. We'll start with a roll call, please.
Weber,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Maynard,
Here.
Prasada,
Here.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
First, I need a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So move.
Second?
I have a motion to second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 7-0. Next, we move to the plaque presentation. Andrea, can you meet me up here? And council, could you meet me up here as well, please? We're not part of
When you
council.
said council.
Well, I wanted you to counsel me on something.
The wrong degree for that, Mayor.
I don't have enough hours.
Everybody all set? Mike? Okay, Andrea, obviously, we really enjoyed working with Tom, and it was great having him on the council, and we want to provide you with this plaque in recognition for the service and the impact that he's had upon the community, et cetera. So I hope you'll accept that from us.
Thank you.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
No, not yet.
Okay, next we move to item number 5, which is the proclamation. Whereas the office of the professional municipal clerk is a time-honored and vital part of local government which exists throughout the world, and whereas the office of the professional municipal court is the oldest among public servants, and whereas the office of professional municipal clerks provides the professional link between the citizens, the local governing bodies, and the agencies of government at all levels, and whereas professional municipal clerks have pledged to be ever mindful of their neutrality and impartiality, rendering equal service to all, whereas the professional municipal clerk serves as the information center on the functions of the local government and community, whereas the professional municipal clerks continually strive to improve the administration of the affairs of the office of the professional municipal clerk through participation in education programs, seminars, workshops, and the annual meetings of their state, provincial, county, and international professional organizations, where it is most appropriate that we recognize the accomplishments of the office of professional municipal clerk. Therefore, I, Brad Blackner, Mayor of Independence, do recognize the week of May 4 through 10, 2025 as Professional Municipal Clerks Week, and further extend appreciation to our Professional Municipal Clerks Office and to all professional municipal clerks for the vital services they perform and their exemplary dedication to this community they represent. And I've signed this, and you'll take care of it.
Yep.
Thanks for all you do, Susie.
Thank you.
Thanks, Susie.
Okay, next we move to public comment. We're going to do things a little bit differently tonight. On the public comment, we're only going to take public comment at this moment in time as to those items which are not on the agenda. So if you've got something that's not on the agenda itself, this is the time for public comment. If there's something that's on the agenda that you want to talk about, we'll take those comments at the time of the actual item being discussed from the agenda item itself. So, Daniel Young, did you have something that's outside of something that's on the agenda, correct?
Well, you're setting a budget amendment number 2, and that's what one of the things I want to talk about.
Okay, sure.
So,
Okay, we can do.
an hour later.
Yeah, we can do that at the time of that. I think it's. I'm sure somebody will help me tell me what number it is.
12.
12? Okay, thank you, Susie. Okay, next we move to the, to the consent agenda. I need a motion to accept and approve the consent agenda that approves the following. The minutes of the April 14th, 2025 special meeting, the minutes of the April 14th, 2025 regular meeting, the Independence Area Chamber of Commerce special event application for the 164th Annual 4th of July Parade to be held Friday, July 4, 2025. The Independence Chamber of Commerce, the Independence Area Chamber of Commerce special event application for Meet Me on Main to be held Friday, August 15, 2025. The Independence Area Chamber of Commerce special event application for Jingle on Main to be held Friday, December 5, 2025. The Los Dos Marias Mexican Restaurant Class C retail alcohol license renewal with a tentative effective date of May 5, 2025 through May 4, 2026. Do I have a motion to accept that?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Passes 7-0. Next, we move to the financials. I need a motion to approve the claims for payment.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 7-0. Next, we move to item number 9, which is the revenues and expenses to date. Again, this is for information only. Anybody have any questions or information regarding anything on the revenues or expenses? Hearing none, we move to item number 10. This is the transfers. Again, this is information only. Anybody have any issues with regard to the transfers? Okay. Next, we move to item number 11, which is the Chapter 69 Parking Regulation Amendment. This is our first reading. So let's start with a motion to approve the first reading of the ordinance amending provisions pertaining to Chapter 69 Parking Regulations.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Obviously, council, we've been discussing this for quite some time. The three major items that are being changed with the ordinance change is that there'll be 2-hour parking downtown between 8 and 5. The second item is that overnight parking will be allowed in city lots, but not for more than 48 hours consecutively. And the third item that's a change is they're going to change the downtown streets that are the side streets like 2nd, 3rd, and 4th Street and 1st Street as well. They will have no overnight parking at all. Currently, they're...
Mayor, avenues.
Sorry, thank you. Correct. Currently, they're allowed to park along there from November 15th to April 1st, but this would change that, so they would no longer be allowed to be that. Mr. Gomer, did you have something that you wanted to address?
So I was reading through the proposed ordinance this morning, and I have a couple questions. So in regards to the overnight parking in the city lots, I'm assuming I'm looking at the right one. They think they all had the same thing as far as, if it's more than 48 hours, you have to have a valid permit from the police department. So we are looking at opening up some short-term rentals, which, may be 48 hours, but, people might be staying longer. If they don't move their vehicle, if they're going to be there 3 days, that means a short-term renter is going to have to come to the police department to get a valid permit. We're going to do that every time. That's one thing I don't understand, about that. I'm curious as to why we will have for the city designated spots for the short-term rental in the parking lot. But yet we're going to have valid permits for those designated spots.
Mr. Gomer, on the sign places, are those ones that are on the city property, or are those the ones that are on property that you own back there?
Be on the city property that's part of the Catalyst grant.
So I'm not aware of any parking stalls for your specific Catalyst grant that were awarded by the city. Yours was a cash
It was a
reward.
cash
It wasn't a
match.
cash match. It was not reward, a cash award. It was not a parking stall situation. And one of the main reasons for that was because there's not very good striping in that parking lot, so it becomes really difficult to identify exactly where those stalls are going to be when there's not adequate striping there.
Okay.
And I
That's
think-
good because, it was either going to be, because I thought that was a reduction in the cash, so, okay.
No, I mean,
No, I looked, we only have 2 agreements where the city dedicated parking and ours was not.
Okay.
And the answer to your other question is, I don't think it's necessary that each one of your people goes down. I think that if you've got somebody coming in on a rental that's going to be longer than it's the 48 consecutive, so somebody would have to clock it as having been not moved in the 48 hours. And I think we're going to try and be as lenient as possible with regard to that. So if there is a situation where one of your tenants or your tenants, or whatever we got to call them,
Yeah.
does get a ticket, then you just contact the police department and we'll do something about it, or I'll do something about it, because that's not our intention, to not allow regular people that are using those items to do that. I think that the issue is for people that are, have broken down cars, or they're long-term type things.
I think also, you guys will probably do some sort of contact letter with those people when they, or an agreement to lease to them. And I know when we've rented houses or anything like that in other places, bed and breakfast or whatever it may be, it's usually written in there to give you any kind of local knowledge that you'd want to know that, as a reminder, hey, 48 hours, as long as you're moving your vehicle at some point in time.
I mean, but if you've got somebody that's coming into town, say an executive rental, they're in for a week, and what if it's, they don't need to move their car, so they're going to be forced to go out and move their car and come back in, if they're going to be there 48 hours, that's what, it seems, if I've got a renter that's, there for the weekend, not a problem, but it just seems, a little nonsensical to have, if they're in town for a week, that they've got to move their car, even though they're only here for a short time, still a short-term rental.
Understood.
But the 48 hours seems a little. I understand why we're wanting
What
to
we're
do
trying to
it,
accomplish.
but for our situation, it seems like it's a little encumbering for us.
Or would there be a spot back there that you own you could put them in? For 7 days?
I mean, there. Right now, I mean, I don't think I have enough space to, park 3 cars. One maybe, of our actual property, but others would be, encroaching on the Chamber of Commerce space.
Sure.
So there's not enough to get vehicles, that many vehicles there, so.
And remember, this is only overnight parking that we're talking about. There's no restrictions on parking in the city lots during the day.
Right. But with the trying to bring visitors downtown, and now and the other issue obviously being no parking on the streets. I was kind of curious on that. So if the parking on the street wouldn't be real conducive for our rentals on Main Street. Obviously, is even right now is no parking overnight at all. But in the back lot, or on the side streets, we do have, I do have some renters that are using that now, and they don't have access to that back lot through the building. They have to walk around the building to do that. So the other issue I have is with the, the streets going from part of the year not able to park on the side streets to now all the year. I'm just kind of curious, what issue do we have in the city that we need to, force no parking at all downtown? On these side streets overnight.
Those people don't have 2 exits to get out of that building?
No, on my 118 building, only have the one exit.
Oh, is that past fire codes?
Yes, they have window exits. So it's either
Window?
go out the window or the front door. One door. They don't have access to the back of the building. So
I think part of the problem is, and I've already been hit up about this, there's not enough parking on the street for the businesses already on that street. That's a problem. I know I just got an email or a text the other day from somebody who said there was no parking in the front and they can't park in the back. So they were really frustrated. And I
So-
said, I'm sorry.
So they can't park in the back, but my tenants are forced to park back there?
This was a employee, or not an employee, this was a customer that needed to access a business on the front side, and there was no parking, so she ended up having to park down the street and walk all the way down. She was very frustrated with it, and said that there was, and actually pointed out that there was a truck that had been parked there all day and all night. And I said, we don't have anything in place at this point. I'm sorry. That's all I could say.
Yeah, so I think I know the
So-
truck you're referencing.
Yeah.
And that is one of my tenants, yes. And all the, employees that park in the businesses along those streets. Yeah.
So this was a customer that said she was very frustrated because there was no parking available.
Right.
But I would think also with that expanse, like for your business too, you wouldn't want people parked there all day and night.
Yeah, so the
know.
2-hour parking, yes, I fully agree with.
Yeah.
But the overnight parking for my, tenants that don't have direct access to the back, it makes it a little difficult for them. And so the street you're talking about, most of that parking is taken up by employees from another business, not my business. it happens to be across the street. So, this overnight parking isn't going to solve that issue you just brought up.
Well, when is the back going to be available
What do you mean?
to enter? I mean, the back is closed because of the infrastructure. in
So
back.
We're getting,
for my tenants,
we're getting off target here.
for my tenants, they don't have access through the back of the building from that 118 building. There is no physical access. They have to go around the building to get to that back lot. So there is actually no, so they don't have trash cans. They can't put trash cans out on the street because they don't have trash cans in the back. They don't have access to the back. So that issue, yes, but you talked about it's going to be, it's something else. But for the tenants I have in 118 First Street East, that there is no back access. So, but I'm kind of, so the issue you brought up is, one issue. Are there other issues that this is trying to solve? Because to me, that this parking change isn't solving that issue because most of that parking is taken up by employees at other businesses.
In one of the meetings, I did mention about possibly allowing overnight parking on that street, but that got shot down.
Yeah. I mean, I drive by, obviously, I drive up that street to come park in the back. And, I count the cars every morning. There's 3 to 4. There's more than 4 spots on that street. So, and I understood, the November to April is roughly snow removal. But now to take it all year long, I still don't see that, what we're solving with that, so making this change. And if we're making a change, whether, that's not solving an issue, why are we doing it?
And the overnight parking restriction is from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. So if you've got 2-hour parking, by the time that the regular 2-hour parking comes into play at 8 o'clock, those cars are long gone with people that are going off to work. But okay, thank you, Mr. Conway.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, further discussion with regard to the first reading. Okay, hearing none, this would then be a roll call vote.
Hannah,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Maynard,
Yes.
Crusader,
Yes.
O'Laughlin.
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
Weber.
Yes.
So that passes 7-0. Does anybody want to make a motion to suspend the statutory rule requiring that an ordinance be considered and voted on for passage at 2 council meetings prior to the meeting in which it's finally presented?
So moved.
Is there a second to that? Do we have a, this would have to have 6 out of 7 votes in order to pass. If there's no second to it, then we'll move on. The next is item number 12. This is a motion to set a public hearing date of May 12, 2025 at 5 o'clock p.m. for the fiscal year budget, 2025 budget amendment number 2. So first, do I have that motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. This is the 2025 year budget, which ends on June the 30th of 2025, and the actual, correct me if I'm wrong, Susie, but the actual amendment itself actually reduces the budget by $272,850. Is that correct?
Hold on, I gotta look.
What the amendments do is, as we get through the year, that certain of the departments will have used more money or less money, and then as we get closer to the June 30th date, we have amendments to the budget itself. What's an increase?
It's an increase. Yeah, because we're expending more than we are amending.
So I thought this came out over here.
So this is what I'm amending here, and this is what the totals are going to be.
Okay, did you want to come up?
Hi, my name is Daniel Young. I live at 608 7th Street Northwest, and I wanted to come and talk to you guys about the levy and the associated budget and a couple other things that dealt with money coming in and going out that you guys are voting on or have voted on. So the first question I have is why it's appropriate to be raising the levy rate at this time with the increase in property taxes being roughly 20% into the city for the budget as shown on the ingoing and outgoing statement. So it shows that on your budget of what you're proposing, that you have roughly a 20% increase in property taxes, which in actual money. So I'm asking why there needs to also be an associated levy increase with that. And the other thing that I have a problem with is that when all of this was being discussed from the city side of things, there was never an acknowledgement of how much the actual money is going to be increased into the budget for the property taxes. The only thing that was talked about was how the state got it wrong, and the long divisional equation that got us to the 3% levy increase. And I'm not really understanding why it wasn't also explained that in real money, we are going to have a 20% tax increase. The other thing that frustrates me is that in the statement for the actual levy, it states that a couple of the reasons why the levy is increasing and the company budget is, as it states, is for added employee benefits. Well, it doesn't make much sense to me that we raise everybody 2 years ago, everybody's salaries, and then all of a sudden, wow, we have to pay more in benefits. That's very easily, it should be easy for this council to understand or realize that if you raise people's wages, their benefits go up as well. The other reason why you're saying that you need an increase is for increased debt ratio, so we can borrow more money on top of the money that we've already borrowed. And for me, on the outside looking in, that's hard for me to understand why those two issues haven't been addressed prior, and why it's having to be pushed into the budget and levy at this time. If people are going to get a raise, their benefits are going to go up as well. If we want to borrow more money, it's going to cost more money. And so it's frustrating to me that this is very reactionary. The way that the things are couched to us citizens are frustrating, in that there's other projects that are coming out that we haven't even accounted for in these budgets that you're wanting to do, like the $10,000 you dropped on drawings for Levi Architecture for getting us some drawings for a new civic center out at the Starlight Cinema. If that's so easy to just throw money down that rabbit hole, then where's the cutting associated with that in the actual budget? And I also have a problem with the fact that when the budget and these things come out, so as far as the new projects in town, there's a fire station that's being proposed, probably roughly costs about $12 million. Notification for construction manager at risk for the schools just came out, up to $42 million. These are expenses that we're all going to have to eat. Well, at the same time that these expenses are being proposed to us, I can't even get the streets beside my house fixed without having to pay an extra assessment. And that's frustrating to me as a taxpayer, that I already pay for that, and then I have to pay for the street beside my house to get fixed. And on top of that, we have all these pet projects that just come up assumedly unannounced or unawares that we have to pay for. And so what I would like to know, or what I'd like to get from the council is, I would like for you, I've watched all the meetings, and I have not heard the stances of the council on these items, as far as the budget, the levy, the proposed projects that are upcoming in town. And I would like you to tell us what your thoughts are on it, and get it on the record as far as what you are for, against, or otherwise. The last thing that I'm trying to figure out, or trying to square in my mind, is with all these extra expenses as far as the property tax and other increases as far as the water plant and stuff, everyone here is aware that the median age of this town is in their 60s. And so I'm not really sure why we keep increasing these taxes and levies and proposing these new projects at the cost of the residents. I want to understand from you, from the council, why it's appropriate to be having these increases without offsetting any of the costs. Because in reality, the costs keep going up as far as the levy. The monies keep going up that come in, and the costs keep going up to the residents. And it's very frustrating, and I would I would be happy to hear your comments on why it is reasonable and necessary to keep raising these levies and these budgets.
Thank you, Mr. Young.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you.
So, discussion with regard to with the motion to set the public hearing. I have a motion and a second. That would be a roll call vote to set that public hearing.
Pursader,
Yes.
O'Laughlin.
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Maynard.
Yes.
Okay, that passes 7-0. Next, we move to item number 13. This is a public hearing. So pursuant to the agenda, I'll now convene a public hearing on the establishment of the 2025 Pines Housing Urban Renewal Area.
I did not receive anything prior to tonight's meeting.
Okay. Does anybody out there wish to have any discussion with respect to that? We'll talk about it a little bit further in just a second, but if there's no further discussion on that, I'll now close the public hearing, and the clerk will note all comments for the record. Next, we move to item number 14, which is a resolution to declare necessity and establish urban renewal area pursuant to Section 4034. So first, I'd like to start with a motion to approve and authorize the mayor to sign a resolution to declare necessity and establish an urban renewal area pursuant to Section 403.4 of the Code of Iowa, and to approve the urban renewal plan and projects for the 2025 Pines Housing Urban Renewal Area.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. This is the Steve G. project that we're talking about, which is between Juniper and Spruce. This deals with the TIF, the tax increment financing for residential projects.
We should, we've got a nice group here, and this might be a good time to explain it. This is money we've never had before. This TIF, this allows him to develop a street, to put 12 units on one side, 12 units on the other, which is going to be a 24-unit increase within the city of Independence, and the money is paid back to us through taxes that were never there before. So this is a kind of investment we'd like to make.
Any other further comments on that?
There was the issue previous about a water issue there, and that has been addressed, I'm assuming?
This is a separate issue than that would be. That would come up under the plans themselves. And
Okay.
This is just to establish the urban renewal area. If you'll recall, in a prior meeting, we deleted the urban renewal planning area for that area because it was logged in with another project, or it hadn't been.
In order to restart the proverbial shot clock on TIF, you have to take it out and then put it back in.
Okay,
So we took it out, so now this is a motion to put it back in,
okay,
if that makes sense to everybody.
yes.
Any other further discussion with regard to that?
And this has to take place in order for TIF to be allocated for him to build
Correct.
the road in order to build the properties.
That's absolutely right.
It's an investment in the future.
Okay, roll call vote.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Maynard.
Yes.
Pursader.
Yes.
Okay, that passes 7-0. Next, we move to item number 15. This is the same thing, except a little bit different, because this is an actual ordinance providing for the division of the taxes levied on the taxable property in the 2025 Pines Housing Urban Renewal Area. So I start with a motion to approve the first reading of an ordinance providing for the division of taxes levied on taxable property in the 2025 Pines Housing Urban Renewal Area pursuant to Section 403.19 of the Code of Iowa. First,
So
I
moved.
Second.
have a motion and a second. Again, this is the same, Matt, anything different?
Similar part of this is the ordinance that actually takes care of dividing up how the taxes are going to be split. So it's a little bit different than putting the area back in, but it's got more to do with the taxes, about what the city's going to get, what the county's going to get, so on and so forth.
Further discussion with respect to that?
Excuse me.
Hearing none, this is a roll call vote then?
Jensen,
Yes.
Weber?
Yes.
Hannah?
Yes.
Moore?
Yes.
Maynard?
Yes.
Crusader?
Yes.
O'Laughlin?
Yes.
Passes 7-0. Next, I'll entertain a motion to suspend the statutory rule allowing an ordinance to be considered and voted on for passage on 2 council meetings prior to the meeting in which it's finally passed. Is there a motion for that?
Yes.
I have a motion. Is there a second to that?
I'd second that.
Okay. Then this would be a roll call vote. Then
You aren't going to have any discussion?
this is only whether to suspend.
Okay.
So if
Okay.
we,
All right.
so that would be a roll call vote.
Weber?
Yes.
Hannah?
No.
Moore?
Yes.
Maynard?
Yes.
Crusader?
Yes.
O'Laughlin?
Yes.
Jensen?
Yes.
Okay, that passes 6-1. So now that we've suspended the statutory rule, I need a motion to have the ordinance which provides for the division of taxes levied on taxable property in the 2025 Pines Housing Urban Renewal Area pursuant to Section 403.19 of the Code of Iowa, that it be placed on for final passage for adoption pursuant to Iowa Code Section 330.3, and to authorize the mayor to sign the ordinance. First, I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. So, I guess this would just be a roll call vote then. Okay.
Hannah?
Yes.
Moore?
Yes.
Maynard?
Yes.
Crusader?
Yes.
O'Laughlin?
Yes.
Jensen?
Yes.
Weber?
Yes.
Passes 7-0. Next, we move to item number 16, which is a motion to approve and authorize the mayor to sign a resolution that sets a public hearing for May 27, 2026, 5 o'clock PM. Sorry?
2025.
2025. When did I set it for?
2026.
Oh, good. Well, that'll be.
He might have an
Steve,
issue
we have
with that.
Steve, we have it built by then, or what? May 27, 2025, 5 o'clock PM, for the proposal to approve a development agreement with Steve G. Construction, Inc., including annual appropriation of tax increment payments.
So move.
Second.
Okay, so this is where we've been discussing and going, and all this is doing is setting the public hearing to discuss this particular project that Steve is trying to work on. So further discussion with regard to that? Hearing none, then this would be a roll call vote.
Moore?
Yes.
Maynard?
Yes.
Crusader?
Yes.
O'Laughlin?
Yes.
Jensen?
Yes.
Weber?
Yes.
Hannah?
Yes.
Passed 7-0. Thank you, Steve. You're welcome to stay, or you can. Okay. Where's that at one?
It's farther down, it's the plat, preliminary plat.
Okay. All right, let's move to item number 17 then, which is a motion to approve and authorize the mayor to sign a resolution deleting property from the Independence Urban Renewal Area.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, now we're talking about the northeast corner of the intersection of 20th Avenue Southwest and Bland Boulevard. This is Jeff and Jill Stiegelman with Indy Storage. And this is just, like we talked about before, we're going to have a TIF district over there, but we need to remove the prior one first before we can put the new one into place. So any further discussion with respect to that? Hearing none, this would be a roll call vote.
Maynard?
Yes.
Crusader?
Yes.
O'Laughlin?
Yes.
Jensen?
Yes.
Weber?
Yes.
Hannah?
Yes.
Moore?
Yes.
Okay, that passes 7-0. Next is item number 18, which is a motion to approve the first reading of an ordinance deleting property from the tax increment financing district for Independence Urban Renewal Area of the City of Independence, Iowa, pursuant to Section 403.19 of the Code of Iowa. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. So,
Same property.
same property that, as we just talked about in the prior one, but the first one was deleting the property from the renewal area, and this one is deleting the TIF district from that particular area, correct?
It's deleting it from the TIF increment financing district that was established before.
Okay.
So it takes a resolution to modify the urban renewal area, it takes an ordinance to modify the TIF district. That's why you got to do both.
Okay, any further discussion with respect to that? Hearing none, this is a roll call vote.
Crusader,
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Maynard.
Yes.
Okay, that passes 7-0. Next, I'll entertain a motion to suspend the statutory rule requiring that an ordinance be considered and voted on for passage at 2 council meetings prior to the meeting in which it's finally passed. Do we have support for that?
Yes. So move.
Okay, so I've got a motion. Do I have a second? on it?
Second.
A motion and a second. Okay, so this requires 6 out of 7 to pass. Roll call vote, please.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Maynard.
Yes.
Crusader.
Yes.
Okay, that passes 7-0. Now that we've got it allowed to be ruled on as a final here, I need a motion to have this ordinance, which deletes property from the tax increment financing district of the Independence Urban Renewal area of the City of Independence, Iowa, pursuant to Section 403.19 of the Code of Iowa, and be placed on its final passage for adoption pursuant to Iowa Code Section 380.3, and authorizes the mayor to sign the ordinance. Do I have a motion?
So move.
This would be a roll call vote again.
Jensen,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Maynard.
Yes.
Crusader.
Yes.
O'Laughlin.
Yes.
Okay, that passes 7-0. Next, we move to item number 19. I need a motion to approve and authorize the city manager to sign a change order number 1 for the Independence Airport runway and taxiway edge lighting project with an increase of $3,746.70 to the contract amount. Do I have the motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. This is part of a project that we had with a federal grant, and this is our share of the final portions of it. And what we're doing is we're changing the as-bid to the as-built, basically, to make up the $3,746.70, and then we would then start the clock later, right? Oh, no, that's the next one. Next.
That's the next one. So the biggest portion of this change order was there was some conduit that was out there that they were intending to pull cabling back through, and they couldn't because it just wasn't able to be pulled through. So it had to be retrenched and redone. So.
Okay, so this will be a roll call vote then.
Weber,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Maynard.
Yes.
Crusader.
Yes.
O'Laughlin.
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
It passes 7-0. Next, we move to item number 20. I need a motion to approve and authorize the mayor to sign a resolution that accepts the work covering the Independence Airport runway and taxiway lighting project.
So move.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. So the work is all completed. So this would start the process start the clock with regard to any retainage amount owed. And I believe that that would be discussed at the June 9th meeting if everything goes according to plan. So I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on that? Hearing none, this will be a roll call vote again.
Hannah,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Maynard.
Yes.
Crusader.
Yes.
O'Laughlin.
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
Weber.
Yes.
Okay, that passes 7-0 as well. Next, we move to item number 21. Sorry. Okay, item number 21 deals with the Independence Premium Foods Development Agreement. Is that what one?
Yeah.
Okay, so provide a little bit of background for everybody. On May the 10th of 2023, at about 6:30 in the morning, I got a call telling me they had an emergency meeting and I needed to meet with the people from General Mills. Met with the people at General Mills at 7 a.m. that day, and they told us that they were in the process of closing down. They were going to move to another location and that they would be laying all the employees off. On approximately July 5th, 2023, I met with Ken Mayer, the CEO of Independence Premium Foods, sitting here in the front row. We went through the building itself to see if that would suit his needs, and they also were a couple of other companies that came in at the same time, not at the same time, but the same day as that were also looking at the project. Mr. Mayer then, and his company then moved forward with this and sought a grant from the state of Iowa, and on November the 27th of 2022, 2023, sorry, 2023, the city council approved a measure approving an application for Independence Premium Foods to the Iowa Economic Development High Quality Job Program. This was passed unanimously, and what the requirements were for Independence Premium Foods were that they would create 229 full-time or career positions with the company by a certain date, which I believe is October of 2026.
November.
No, sorry, November 2026. And that they would also provide a capital investment of approximately $15 million. The grant from the state was a $1.5 million grant. The city's 20% allocated share then would be $300,000. So council approved it at that time, and then Independent Premium Food went forward, got the grant was approved and accepted, so they got the money for that. And we decided that there were two ways that we could potentially pay our share of the grant, the $300,000. One of them was to pay it in cash. The other was to pay it in in-kind work to improve the storm sewer system in the area, which we had been looking at for a number of years. We opted for the in-kind work as opposed to the cash outlay. So I believe that Independence Premium Food purchased the building, the property, approximately December 1st of 2023. And then shortly thereafter, on March the 25th of 2024, council approved a resolution approving Crawford and Company as the engineer for this particular project. On May the 28th of 2024, we set a public hearing to get bids on the project itself for the groundwork that was necessary to be done for the storm sewer system. On June the 24th, we held that public hearing, and thereafter we approved the plans and the bids. The contract was for $409,376.85 at that point in time. So we knew that that this was approved by council on July 8th of 2024. So we knew that that $300,000 of that $409.76, $776.85 was going to be paid by us, but the balance was going to be paid by Independence Premium Foods. That we moved forward a little further, and there was a change order with respect to the contract, which increased the price by about $50,000. We were then in contact with Independent Premium Foods, and what we're here talking about now is a development agreement that allows us to get reimbursed from them for the monies that are over the $300,000 number, which is what we had agreed to pay for the project itself. So there's a couple of things that are important. The primary reason why we've got the water issues out there, and that on the west side deals with an old railroad right-of-way that is behind the building itself and up closer to the county line. As a result of that right-of-way being blocked off by construction on buildings that took place years ago in the early 2000s, the houses that are up in that area and the houses that are south of there are constantly getting water damage. And there's also water that was coming toward the building for Independence Premium Foods, which they couldn't have, obviously, to operate the business that they need. So we'd been looking at this area for quite some time in terms of a stormwater plan. We go back a ways with Crawford on that particular issue. So I think that covers what we're talking about generally. So we're talking about a situation where the $300,000 was part of the grant money to allow this company to come here to town to be able to invest the $15 million that they're investing and to allow them to get the additional grant money. And if the city shares the $300,000, but we're talking about the money over and above the $300,000, and we were approached by Mr. Mayor on behalf of the company in order to ask if there was a way that they, because they're funding so much in terms of the remodel and all the other things that they're doing on the project, they wanted to know if they could reimburse us over time as opposed to reimbursing us at the end of the contract itself. Obviously, we hired the contractor, so we're responsible for paying the contractor. The only question is, do we get reimbursed from them immediately, or do we work out a timeline with them for payments within a
3 years.
3-year time period with the interest at 4%. So that's what we're here about. Mark, where are you? Oh, hi, Mark. Is there anything that I've missed in terms of this information that you want to add to, or correct me if I'm wrong? It's not the first time. My wife tells me that all the time.
No, I think, Mr. Mayor, you hit the highlights really well. I can provide just a little more detail maybe on what the actual project is, or an overview of it.
Sure.
As you mentioned, the city's $300,000 is part of that in-kind contribution to complete some stormwater improvements on the IPF site. Those improvements will also help the area between 10th Avenue and 8th Avenue along 3rd Street that experiences quite a bit of flash flooding in heavy rain events. That water that was redirected due to the expansion of the former Iowa Ham and Tyson and Blue Buffalo facilities kind of bypasses that area and gets into the city's system. So these improvements will help alleviate some of that flooding that occurs. If you've been around here as long as most of you all have, you know that the city's crews go up, set up the wood barricades in a heavy rain event. They block it off at 3rd, block 8th Avenue off at 3rd, because that water just, there's not enough capacity to take it there due to this rerouted runoff. So these improvements are going to help contain some of that and slow the release of that. In other words, slow how fast that gets into the city's stormwater system. That's what these 2 detention ponds that are going to be built do. The paved parking lot will help direct that water to the retention ponds on the site. So that's an overview of the improvements. I had some notes written here, but the mayor pretty much covered all of them, so that's all I have unless there's questions.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I think it's a misunderstanding. A lot of people think that $300,000 was all simply for the foods. However, the correlation where the citizens within that area are going to benefit off of that investment also through not being flooded the way it currently does happen once that project is completed.
Sure.
I'm glad you brought that up, so if there's people that don't understand that, it's not just improving and helping them, it's helping that entire neighborhood.
That's right. It's a public-private partnership for sure.
Mark, one more thing I wanted to cover with you, if you might. So at least a year before General Mills got away, so sometime in '22, where you were involved in a stormwater study for that particular area too, right?
Correct.
So we were already looking at that area in terms of something that we needed to do. We were just looking for some type of funding and other ways of doing something about it.
Yeah, the result of our west side stormwater study that basically covered the west side of the community, there were several deficient areas identified and some priorities set out. At that time, this project wasn't necessarily at the top of the list. However, when Blue Buffalo closed and when IPF came to town and we were able to get this public-private partnership engagement going on, that moved that project kind of to the top of the list, because we had a willing partner with IPF, we had a need that needed to be taken care of, and the city had a commitment due to the High Quality Jobs Act of $300,000. So all the stars lined up under that scenario for this to kind of rise to the top on that project. But you're correct, that this is an area that rose, or that came out of our west side stormwater study.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Thanks, Mark.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Thanks, Mark.
Ken, do you have anything that you wanted?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. What I will say is, Mayor, as you mentioned, it's been almost 2 years since we've met. We've made significant progress at the site. We're up to 119 full-time employees at this point. We're projected to be at 143 by the end of the year, and we'll well hit our 229 headcount obligation by sometime next year. We're only using the east side of the facility at the moment, so we haven't even expanded to the north or the west side. And frankly, given the water conditions in the rear of the building, I'm reluctant to do so. So if we decide to do USDA production, the way the water is sloping against the building, we will not be able to. So this is a high priority for IPF as well as the surrounding neighbors. I fully respect the skepticism around the new company in town. When I go out to eat here, I hear it all the time. Here's the new kid in town, right? So I do understand that, and I ask I asked the help from the town to allow us to pay up our obligation over the next 3 years following the project's completion. It's a huge help to us as a startup business that's self-funding our own capital improvements and all that kind of stuff. So
There's been some discussion about the business itself. Is Independent Premiums Food one that exists in any place else besides here in town?
No, we have a sister company in New Jersey, United Premium Foods. I have the shirt on here, so so it's a very similar operation. The ownership structure is not the same, though. So it's some similar owners, but not the same owners.
Okay.
That's interesting.
Questions for him? Okay, thanks.
So this will allow you to make use of the Northwest now?
Yeah, I mean, we intend on using it next year, but if it does rain heavily enough, and I've spent some time in Iowa, it does actually rain here sometimes. When it does, the water comes right against the building. It's an issue.
Yeah.
And to the point where we have a few man doors on that side of the facility, and water goes right inside. So
You can't have that.
That precludes
Production.
USDA.
Why would you not go to the bank and get a loan for this instead of asking the city for this money?
Good question. We'd like to work with the town as best as possible. I don't really want to go to a bank for any more money if I don't have to. That would be a last resort if the council decides not to help us, but we can go that route.
I think that's what you need to do. I don't feel that the city's a bank.
Okay. Fair.
Thanks, Ken.
Okay.
Thanks, Ken.
Okay, so now we'll do the public comment with regard to this. Melissa, you'd be first up on the list.
Okay. I'm back in. I want you guys to vote yes tonight. I think IPF is a good development, and it brings jobs to our community. So IPF has invested $15 million to Independence, $15 million. And our investment to them has been 2% of that. 2% of that. That is not much invested. That 2% is actually 20% of the 1.5 million that they needed for the grant in order for the grant to happen for them to get the free money that they needed to invest back again to Independence. That $300,000 investment wasn't paid out in cash by any means. No, it was great. It was great for our community. It helped build sewer systems that we needed, and it was money paid to city workers, and the city workers live and breathe in our community. It helps us all the way around. It helped the neighborhood. It will help the neighborhoods with their flooding and their problems too. So it's not only just that it helped the business, it helps the area. And it helped us basically pay for something we needed to do for the city anyway. This is a huge benefit to our community to have that. This is also, grant requires him to hold up to his end. That requirement requires him to have 229 jobs by November of 2026. So that's 226 jobs that will be invested here in our community, and the payment that we make to them is only $1,310 per job, which is easily a paycheck to somebody probably at his job based on the grant requirements that they'd be paid within 2 weeks' pay. It's an investment in our future. Yeah, we've had a lot of turnover, so to speak, at that building. I remember it as Iowa Ham. Not going to change my mind on that. Hopefully they will, but we'll see. I consider Iowa Ham building, Buffalo, that company, and they're a good company, GM. You would think, oh, they're going to be great, you know, and you think this is the greatest promised land known to man, and then they failed. I can understand the concern of the community, but we have to reinvest. You have to not give up. You have to say yes to jobs and progress in the community. And this cannot be more progress than this. This is a very minimal requirement from our community to give to them to gain back. And it is a loan that is being paid back. You can't get a better investment. Please say yes.
Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Laura, do I also have you signed up? Where is she at? Okay. Well,
I've never done this before.
Just come up, state your name, and tell us your address.
Laura Ungz, I live at 411 O'Brien Court, Northwest.
Okay.
Okay, first of all, you mentioned retention ponds. What's a retention pond, and where is it going to be?
They're in the back. A retention pond is a way to slow the water down, so rather than the water just all flowing continuously down. I'm not the engineer here,
Into the
so.
sewers, into the runoff.
Stormwater.
So is it going to be like
They
the one
operate-
sitting by the baseball field?
You can think of it like a battery. They store stormwater during an event, and then they release it slowly.
Is it covered?
Sorry?
Is it covered?
No.
It's
They're
going to be
open.
like the one at the baseball field? At the high school?
I'm not the one at the baseball field is a water, that one's got water in it all the time. These are dry basins, so they would not have water.
It doesn't have water in it all the time, but
Correct.
okay.
Correct. Well, the ones that I know of, or that I'm thinking of do.
I live by it.
Okay.
The one on the south side where the ducks are all the time?
No, the one by the trail.
Oh, by the trail.
At the end of the baseball field.
I was thinking of the one right in the turn there where the ducks are,
No.
right on the cornfield.
That's the one I was thinking of. 'Cause
Okay,
that-
so is this retention pond that type of structure?
It would be dry, and I'm not familiar with the structure that you're referencing.
Okay,
And there's two of them, actually, that would both be on their particular property.
Yeah.
Up toward where the railroad tracks are, the way that the property line goes, it's straight across like this, and then all of a sudden, it just goes up like this toward where the railroad tracks was. It's going to be sitting in that area there at the top, would be the first one. I think, Mark, the second one is down,
Down kind of along their north edge of their parking.
Right.
and
Okay, so-
the way that this works is because it holds the water and keeps it from all running off, then it simplifies it, so it moves the water along into the actual drainage and sewer system that we have, but the size of the pipe that's required is much smaller. We can be much smaller because we don't have as much of a high quality of water, quantity of water that would be pouring down it. So that's the reason why this is, and that's why it helps not only their property, but it helps all of the other properties around the area that are constantly getting flooded, because it'll take this natural drainage that's coming from the railroad right-of-way from the 1900s or whatever it was, that when they stopped that, they didn't develop any plan for how they were going to run that water off, so they just let it flow.
Laura, are you a gardener? person.
Some,
You know what a drip bucket is?
yeah.
So you got a 5-gallon bucket with a small hole in it so that it basically mediates the amount of water that comes out, but you can fill it all the way up. Very similar. So when we get a big rain that would normally run down and rush the sewer systems, flood the
Like a big
street.
dump of the bucket.
It's gonna hold in that pond and continually be released out until it's empty. So that
Okay.
we don't get the flooding that we've had in the past.
Okay, but it'll be enclosed and that type of thing. I mean, can kids get in it?
I've got kids and grandkids, they get in everything, but.
But I mean, I'm just thinking of the
I don't know
neighborhood.
if there's any plans to put a fence.
There's daycare areas in the area.
Sure.
Mark, is there a fence projected as part of this project along the north side? There used to be a fence there, and I don't know if it's projected to add one back with the project or not. I can't remember.
I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head. There's going to be an enclosure around the entire facility, parking area or not.
There's currently a fence that runs the northernmost boundary of the property, has houses there. There's 5 houses that sit up there, and
The fence has been taken
that,
down.
that fence was removed, okay. Okay.
Okay, so then, there's been several comments that, okay, we gave them $300,000, is that right? It was a grant?
It's our share, the city's share of the grant.
Okay.
In order to get the jobs
1.5 million.
program to get 1.5 million, the city has to not only take we have to do two things. One, we have to provide our 20% share, which is the $300,000.
Okay.
And then we're also the one that actually hires the engineers and the contractors and everybody else to perform the work, which is where we are right now.
So we've already invested the 300,000.
It's not all paid, but there's a portion of it that already has been. Because,
So we still need to pay some.
we're locked, we've guaranteed the 300,000. It's not negotiable on it.
But it's in our budget?
Yeah, we took it out
Okay.
immediately
Okay.
back in 2023 when we first did this. You know, when we commit to the city share on something, we set aside the money in a separate bucket so that we always have that money because we've committed to have to pay that money. What the additional monies, the 200 and some $1,000 is what it amounts to now, is for the completion of the work. And since we hired the contractor, we would have to pay that money. So this is not like a loan necessarily. I mean, we're obligated, since we hired the contractors and we're overseeing the work, we're obligated to pay all that money. What we're doing here tonight is a development agreement with IPF that says, you know, we've put this money out in order to do this project. We want to get reimbursed by you, and let's set a reimbursement schedule. So that's what this is. It's a reimbursement schedule based upon a property agreement on something that we've committed to do to help not only the business, which we certainly want to do, but also to help that neighborhood.
Okay, but that's the 300,000. Now you're
That's
talking
all of it.
over and above they want a loan?
It's not a loan. The original contract was for $409,000 and change.
And we agreed to 300.
No, we're committed to the 409 right now. It's just 300 of it we committed as part of the grant. See, there's two ways we could have paid the grant. We could have paid it to them all in cash so that they could use that for their processes, or we could do what's called in kind. And in kind, we hire the contractor and we do some type of work that, in this case, not only helps them, but also helps the community in that particular area. So we've committed right now to 409, and there's the item number 22 is to increase that by $53,000, which is the change order that we've been provided by engineering in terms of the cost of and other items that have happened over the last year.
So what is going to happen to like 11th, 12th, and 13th off of 3rd Street? What's going to happen to the water there?
Well, ultimately, we're working on something to do that, but that's a federal grant that we've applied for, and we're hoping to get that federal grant provided to us later this year. But at this point in time, all we've done is some studies and some surveys, and we had a First Street West project where we made recommendations for certain things along the west corridor. But again, we've got some grant money that's been allocated to us already, and we're hoping to use that as part of the money that we would get with regard to a federal grant.
But that's on 1st Street?
No, that's on First Street.
Okay, but I want to know about 3rd Street, because where I live on O'Brien Court, and I don't know if you're familiar with it or not, O'Brien Court is a cul-de-sac, it's a dead end. It takes a turn onto O'Brien Court. It takes another turn onto 12th Avenue, which is a dead end, and then it goes to 3rd Street. You have to go down 3rd Street a ways before you ever hit a storm sewer. And yes, I know.
That would be a separate issue from what we're discussing tonight.
Well, I don't want all this to impact where I go.
Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, but the water that we're collecting here is draining to the east, not to the west where this is.
O'Brien Court is at the top of the hill, it drains to the west.
Right.
Your water is coming down to this, or part of your water.
It isn't going to go that far. It sits on 3rd Street.
I remember there being some break line around 10th Avenue along somewhere in there, because if I remember correctly, part of IPF site drains east, and part of it could have drained west, but we're actually taking it all east because that's where it made sense to do it from a design standpoint.
So the extra money that they're asking for would be to pay their parking lot?
Not necessarily. They're not asking for money. We're asking for money, kind of. We've committed to this project to help the neighborhood. We've got 300 that's we've already put in, and the other part of the money, our agreement with IPF was that we put this, we agree to the 300,000, we agree to use it for this neighborhood area, which is going to help them as well, and they're going to reimburse us for whatever we have to pay over and above $300,000. So we're going to have to outlay the money and pay for it no matter what. But what we're looking to do is enter into a development agreement where we can get reimbursed from them, and they're asking as a help us. We're new to the community. We're trying to get this place up and running. There's parts of it we can't even do anything with because of the water issue. So they're asking us to help them, to help our community by reimbursing some of this money back to them, them reimbursing the money to us to pay for what we've already had to pay for.
They're asking us to give them a 3-year period to pay it back rather than it being due at the completion of the project.
They're asking us for
They're asking
that?
the city to give a 3-year period for repayment rather than being due at the time of completion of the project.
With interest.
And they've given us the 4% interest that was discussed during the work session.
Okay.
These payments would be made every quarter, so there'll be a payment due every 3 months that will go towards that, and there's 12 payments, which equates to 3 years to make it
Okay,
paid.
what if they, for some unforeseen reason, shut down?
If they were to shut down and leave, well, then they would be in breach of that contract, that development agreement, and we'd have to go through that process with our attorneys to collect those funds.
They're not going to put out $15 million to remodel this building and then walk away.
Yeah, I would hope not. Yeah. Okay.
So in that case, they go to the bank and get the money and
But they're not looking for the money, we're looking for the money.
We're looking for the money back from them.
Okay. That's what I think was misunderstanding, is that they were asking for money above the 300,000.
No.
Okay. Okay.
so how did it come about then?
What it amounts to is, rather than when the project is completed, they cutting us a check for that full amount.
$42,000.
For $240-some thousand. When the project's completed, they cut the city a check at that exact moment. What they are asking for is, can we work with the community, or, with the city, to have that extended every 3 months for 3 years, and they would pay the city 4% loan. Okay, well,
4%
or 4% interest.
Right.
Roughly, they're going to employ roughly 100 more people within the next year, I believe, correct?
They've got 18 months to come up with.
Yeah, 18 months to meet their total commitment of 200 and some employees, which is roughly a little over 100 more than you currently have. Well, when you take and look at that, what that extra 100 employees is going to do in income for the community, and that money rolls over, the rollover factor in a community used to be 7 times the money rolled over before it left, but due to big corporations now in the retail business, that rollover factor now is about 5 times that money rolls over. So say you have $100,000 every week in a paycheck rolling, that $100,000 potentially would equal 5 times rollover, which is $500,000 every week rolling within the community, which you have sales tax on and stuff like that, which benefits the city. And everything that the city benefits from benefits all of our citizens.
Right. But a lot of the people that work there are not.
A lot of them that work there are not spending the money here. Absolutely. That's
Right.
why a lot of the rollover factors are not at 7% like it used to be. That was always the rule of thumb a long time ago, 7%, but now it's down to roughly 5%.
Yeah.
But we do have people from out of town working here, so that probably lowers it, let's say 4. Even 4 times rollover would be huge. And the other thing is they're not going to be investing that $15 million in hopes of closing the door.
Well, and I mean, any business doesn't open thinking they're going to close.
But,
I mean.
right,
realistic.
but businesses do. But I mean, this is a pretty substantial investment.
Right. And if the water wasn't an issue, they could open up the east side of the building.
Right.
Correct.
Right. But it was, like I said, it was explained to me, or I understood it, that above that 300,000 was money that they wanted to borrow from us. It wasn't paying us back.
We're paying the contractor, and then they're reimbursing us for what we have to pay the contractor.
Okay, understood.
Many
Over 3
times,
years.
yeah, many times, a lot of things that you read out there are not accurate.
That's why I'm
And
here.
yes, and I try not to respond to all the inaccurate posts that are out there because the people don't understand what the real facts are, but it is so hard not to respond.
Yeah.
So hard not to
We encourage
respond.
people to, especially when we discuss a lot of this stuff in our meetings, it's very important that people hear and understand it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for
We do
coming.
appreciate you coming. and
Thank you.
talking.
Thank you very much, and I hope that helped explain things for you.
Yes, it does.
Is there anybody else that wishes to be heard?
Yeah, I got a couple questions. So what's the total spend that's over the 300,000?
Well, depending upon the approval of item number 22, which is an increase by 53,000, it's 200 and, how much?
242 in it?
242,000.
So above the 300,000
Above the
that's already
300.
been allocated is another 240,000?
Correct.
Okay. Was it not in the original agreement to pay it at the time that the work was done? Like,
We don't have a written agreement with them, that's what this is.
okay, so then what was the parameters of the working agreement that they were to pay it when?
We didn't have an agreement.
There's no
We-
agreement
We
on
hired,
it?
we took the bids, we hired the contractors. The city did everything.
Mm-hmm.
The original bid was $409,376.60, sorry, 85 cents.
We took the bids because the development agreement outlines the costs that we had, so we had to take bids to know exactly what the costs were going to be to put in the development agreement. We then started working through the process after we took the bids of going through the development agreement process, the same thing that we're doing right now, last August roughly, around there. And then when we went to IPF with it, they said, we're just not ready to do this right now. So we stopped moving forward with the project and we didn't do the development agreement because we were waiting. That's the reason the costs have gone up $53,000 because everything got moved back. IPF is essentially assuming that additional $53,000 increase because the city is still only paying the $300,000.
So there was no agreement on when anything was supposed to be paid when this project was started?
Not initially, no.
What was the understanding? There's not even understanding on when it needed to be paid?
The understanding was that the city would pay for it and then they would reimburse us, but there was not specifics discussed at that point. When we got to the point of starting to discuss those, that was when IPF said, we can't afford to do this right now, we need to wait.
Okay, and the reason for wanting to push it out 3 years is what?
That would be a question for them.
It's just a cash flow concern. We're self-funding, we're growing, we're very steep, we're neighbors, right?
Mhm.
You're right, you can see our business is growing by how many stacks are
Yep.
running right outside your building. So we're growing at a rapid pace, and if you were there with us in the next few weeks, we're bringing in even more additional equipment to support that growth. But every dollar matters to us, so the ability for us to pay this out over 3 years is a huge plus to us. And for us to go to a bank as a new business, it's not that easy. It is
Yeah,
not.
well, see, yeah, and that's what I was getting to. I own a business, we're neighbors, obviously. We've had to get loans from the bank before, and as a business owner, I understand your position, but also nobody asked them to spend what they did. Nobody said you got to spend 15 million. I feel like the unknown costs, they had to be planned for.
Well,
And so I'm not understanding why.
Let me back you up in just one step.
Okay.
When we first agreed to the $300,000 as part of the grant that they were getting, we had a couple of ways we could pay it back. One, we could just give them the cash, the $300,000, or we could do something like this. If we had just given them the $300,000, then they would have tried to do some type of an internal fix that wouldn't have helped the rest of the neighborhood. So when we looked at it, because we knew that going back several years, we had been looking at this very specific area, trying to figure out how we can help the homeowners there. And now we have a business that comes in that also needs the help. And when we first started off, we didn't know what it was going to cost. We thought that we maybe, depending upon the type of drainage system that was going to be involved, we thought the 300 might be enough. It wasn't until we got the engineer involved and we actually got the contractor bids that we discovered there was $109,000 more than what we expected. And now we've got another 53 on top of that. So the cost itself that it's costing the city was greater than what we had originally anticipated. So there wasn't at the very beginning, we didn't know that we were going to have an extra $200,000 that we were going to have to put into this project. All we knew was, we've guaranteed the 300, and we're going to find out exactly what it's going to cost us. And we brought several in. I think we brought 3 or 4 engineering companies in here to give presentations on, should the water flow to the east? Should it flow directly to the east? Should we come down? Is there another way of doing this? We did all those things first before we actually hired Crawford to go out and get the bids and ultimately hire the contractor that's doing the work right now.
I understand that, but what we're talking about is the money. So the money had to be accounted for at some point from what was going to be a spend by the city or by the Independence Premium Foods.
Right. So we're
And
going
so
to get the money.
That one, from my perspective, is a little bit, if I got a bid for how much something's going to cost, I knew how much some other entity was going to pay, I knew what I'd be on the hook for, and I knew when I'd be on the hook for it. And that's what, I'm kind of surprised that there was no parameters given at all to this at the outset.
Well, they
And
agree.
now it's.
Yeah, they agreed that they would reimburse us whatever it costs us over and above $300,000. That's the agreement.
Okay.
And, at the time, this extra 50 wasn't in place, so you're only talking about $109,000. If it was just $109,000, maybe they could have done it a different way in terms of the funding on it. But when it increased to the $240,000, that's a little bit more money that you'd have to come up with. And we're just trying to help a business here, and at the same time, do a project that we wanted to do all along. We wanted to fix this particular area going back several years, which is why we were already studying it long before they even considered coming in here as a business.
I understand that.
I wanna clarify
The original
something.
$300,000 is also already a substantial sum to help out a business in town. And it's a substantial sum.
And I agree.
To get
was part of a
1.5,
grant.
1.5 million,
Yeah.
we had to pony up with 300,000.
Right, I'm not arguing that fact. I'm
That's not
saying-
that's not a bad trade-off.
Brad, can I interject when he's done?
I think Matt wants to fix something.
The 409,376 that you're quoting is the 109 difference. That isn't quite correct. That 409 number is just the contract price. That doesn't include engineering, it doesn't include legal, it doesn't include the rest of the project cost. The actual increase that occurred between August last year and now is the 53,000 number that was in the change order, which is the next item on the agenda. That increase is there because the contractor had already ordered materials when this stopped. They had to store those materials, that's part of it. There's additional increases in construction cost in general between then and now. So that's where that other $53,000 is coming from. But again, IPF is paying that additional increase. The city is only
theory.
responsible for,
Well,
they are.
Overtime, in theory, is what you're proposing.
According to the agreement that would be legally entered into by both parties, they would be responsible for it.
Yes.
and they'd be paying us at the interest rate that we get right now on the monies that we have in our accounts. So and we certainly have more money than that sitting in our accounts.
Okay. So the second thing is, being the neighbor right down to the east, we get flooded all the time, and our area gets flooded all the time.
This should help you as well.
This is going
I'm
to help
hoping
you,
it does,
supposedly.
especially the homeowners behind, or to the north of there, they get hit pretty hard.
That's the reason we did the study out there originally, was those neighbors to the north and yourself to the east, and then whatever we have a little bit to the south as you get closer to Third.
So what is the parameters of what area this is going to drain? What are the blocks that this area is going to drain?
Mark?
I don't have that.
This will cover an area from.
Come up if you would, so, because there's a lot of people watching online too.
This cover an area between 10th Avenue and 8th Avenue from, I'm going to say somewhere north of 3rd Street down to the middle of between 3rd Street, between 2nd and 3rd, where those low point intakes are that are the ones that always back up and flood.
So outside of that, there's no...
That water would come from up north, though.
That's correct. That water comes down the old railroad grade, the ditches that were there, and that has been redirected due to the expansion of residential and industrial development.
The work will be performed in the blocks that you just talked about. However, it's to alleviate the water that's coming down from above.
Yeah.
Correct.
Which starts at the railroad tracks.
That's right.
Where that water, if this project didn't happen, that's the water that's coming to
He's
your
well aware
place.
of that.
Huh?
He's well
Yeah,
aware
you're
of
well
that.
aware of that.
Yeah, that's all I had, thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Young.
Brad, can I interject something on that 300,000? Dealing with that 300,000, it's money that we probably would have been spending anyway to revamp that area, to take care of that water problem. We just had the luxury of them appearing while we were still in discussion about repairing that.
We're into the logistics of it. Just
Absolutely.
not the money. I'm not making an issue of the original 300,000.
Yeah, but a lot of people think we gave them 300,000. Well, not really.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Anybody else have anything?
Did you have another question?
Just one second.
Okay, I wanted to say, where did you say this is going to be? The area that this issue is going to help?
Between 10th Avenue and 8th Avenue, from halfway between 3rd Street and 4th Street down to between 2nd Street and 3rd Street.
There is no Second Street.
Well, I call it 2nd Street because it's halfway down where those intakes are. The low point intakes halfway down 3rd Street that are the ones that always flood.
If you extended 2nd Street Northwest across into the intersection of 10th Avenue Northwest, that's where he's referring to.
There is
Just
no
south.
Second Street.
I'm aware, just
So
south.
is it, what I want to make sure is that it takes care of all the way down by their parking lot? Because that's where
Yes.
all the gravel goes in the road.
That's 100%. That's exactly the heart of where it's
Okay,
going
but
to be
there
at.
is no Second Street.
I understand, but what I'm saying is halfway between 2nd or 3rd
I know,
and where
okay.
2nd is
Okay.
the low point intake.
Okay,
Thank you, appreciate it.
all right.
An add-on.
Okay.
I get it, he's asking for that to be a loan, like paid over time. And that you do that because what we want is Independence to be growing businesses and to be business friendly to businesses in Independence. And I would hope that in the future, if Young's Painting wants to grow, which they employed my son and they're good to him, that they would come to you, the city. Just like family comes to their family parent and asks for money when they need help, I would hope that a community, the city management would help grow his business.
Okay. Thank you, Melissa. Okay, so moving back to our portion of it then, first I need a motion to approve the Independence Premium Foods Development Agreement and to authorize the city manager to sign the agreement.
So moved.
Second?
Who made the motion?
Mike.
I got distracted by his phone.
My phone is off, though, so I don't know.
She set a time.
It's probably the weather. I keep getting weather announcements.
Okay,
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, sometimes those weathers override.
all right.
Okay, so I got a motion and a second. Is there further discussion among the council itself?
Does anyone address where the money's coming from?
Stormwater.
It's stormwater.
So the original,
We're going to address where the money's coming.
Hold on, folks. You can't hear up here.
the original $300,000 that was used to match the grant from IEDA comes from a 2023 bond issuance that was done at the beginning of 2023. That's where that original $300,000 came from for that. This additional $242,000 would come out of stormwater utility funds, and as the IPF continues to pay it back to the city with interest, that money would be deposited back into the stormwater utility fund.
Thanks.
Okay.
And one other comment, this is no different than the money that the city invested in revamping downtown, all the storefronts and everything. That was a partnership between the city and the businesses. So it's not like it's just a one-time deal. I mean, and if we want to see this community grow, we as a council need to try to do as much as possible within our means to try to help businesses so we can keep growing the community and not let the community slowly shrink like a lot of communities have over the past years. So it's looking forward on what's best for the overall city.
Further discussion from council? Okay, roll call vote.
Moore,
Yes.
Maynard,
Yes.
Pursader.
Yes.
O'Laughlin.
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
Weber.
Yes.
Hannah.
No.
Passes 6-1. Next, we move to item number 22, which is change order number 1 for the Premium Independence Foods Stormwater Project. I need a motion to approve and authorize the city manager to sign a change order number 1 to the Independence Premium Food Stormwater Project with an increase of $53,329.90 to the contract amount.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. I assume there's no discussion on this since we've been talking about it together. So that'd be a roll call vote then.
Maynard?
Yes.
Crusader?
Yes.
O'Laughlin?
Yes.
Jensen?
Yes.
Weber?
Yes.
Hannah?
No.
Moore?
Yes.
Passes 6-1. Next, we move to item number 23. This is a motion to approve and authorize the mayor to sign a resolution that approves the funding agreement with Heartland Acres Agribition Center and for the city manager and the city clerk to sign the funding agreement. Okay, first, I need a motion.
So moved. Second.
Okay, last meeting, we had several of these requests that we had gotten. We did not have their signed contract yet at the time of that meeting. So this is money that we previously discussed on February the, give the date that we did this on.
The January work session?
The original work session was January 20th, 2025.
Okay. And then, and this is all money that's coming out of the hotel motel fund, so it's not coming from any place other than that. Any discussion with regard to this? It's, oh, by the way, it's $10,000.
And this is not an annual allocation, this is a requested and approved.
It's an individual, yeah, these requests come before the council every year during the budgeting process.
Okay, then roll call vote.
Crusader?
Yes.
O'Laughlin?
Yes.
Jensen?
Yes.
Weber?
Yes.
Hannah?
Yes.
Moore?
Yes.
Maynard?
Yes.
Passes 7-0. Next, we move to item number 24. This is a motion to approve and authorize the mayor to sign a resolution approving the preliminary plat of survey at the Pines Third Edition under conditions that recommendations made by the third-party review, Bear Graham, or any other approved alternates are made to the plat of the survey, and construction adheres to the plat as amended. If that makes sense.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, so again, we're talking about Steve G's project. We're talking about, this is the preliminary plat itself. This has already gone through planning and zoning. It was approved,
It was recommended for approval.
recommended for approval April 23rd, 2025. Any discussion with regard to this?
Great to see Independence grow.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be a great addition.
Okay, roll call vote then.
O'Laughlin?
Yes.
Jensen?
Yes.
Weber?
Yes.
Hannah?
Yes.
Moore?
Yes.
Maynard?
Yes.
Crusader?
Yes.
Okay, passes 7-0. Next, we move to item number 25. I need a motion to approve and authorize the mayor to sign a resolution accepting and approving the Burdine C SEE Division plat of survey as the preliminary plat of survey for the division of land within 2 miles of the city limits of the city of Independence, Iowa. I need a motion first.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Okay, this is it involves Crawford Engineering is involved in this as well. This is for the preliminary plat itself. It's not one that is within city limits, but because it's within 2 miles of city limits, we're also required to approve it before they can proceed forward with it. So any further discussion with respect to this? Hearing none, this would be a roll call vote then.
Jensen?
Yes.
Weber?
Yes.
Hannah?
Yes.
Moore?
Yes.
Crusader?
Yes.
Maynard?
Yes.
Okay,
O'Laughlin?
Yes.
got them all?
Yeah, just not the right order, but
You got to sit closer to her so she knows you're there.
Okay, so that passes 7-0. Next we have a motion to approve and authorize the mayor to sign a resolution accepting and approving the Burdine C Division plat of surveys as a final plat of survey for the division of land within 2 miles of the city limits of the Independence, Iowa. I need a motion first.
So moved.
Second?
So the first one we did was the preliminary plat. This is the final plat. Any further discussion with regard to that? Okay, hearing none, that should be a roll call vote then.
Weber?
Yes.
Hannah?
Yes.
Moore?
Yes.
Maynard?
Yes.
Crusader?
Yes.
O'Laughlin?
Yes.
Jensen?
Yes.
Okay, that passes 7-0. Next, we move to item number 27. I need a motion to approve and authorize the city manager to sign a contract with Kleesner Sanitation LLC for the Independent Single Hauler Agreement.
So
Yeah.
moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Okay, obviously, we've been talking about this for some time. The agreement itself has gone through our attorneys, their attorneys, everybody's attorneys, and as a result of that, we have a final agreement that we're ready to have signed. This would be effective, we hope, July 1st, because the contract with Waste Management expires on June the 30th. Any discussion with respect to this?
I had one question for him. We've got in here about provides for the citywide cleanup event. So what will that look like next year?
So I think today you have a day once a year where residents can take their stuff to the transfer station that's owned by Waste Management. We'll have to have a different location. I don't think they'll want us there probably, but we discussed it and we'll provide pretty much the same thing. It'll have to be at a location that the city provides. I don't know if it's a city shop or something.
Yeah, the thought process was that we would basically just have them bring large roll-offs into the street shop area, and our crews would help. I mean, they're helping with everything anyway, but we're also going to do that this year where we're consolidating everything into that area anyway. So it makes sense to just have them bring large roll-offs in to collect the trash, and we'll, help load that and do that there, and do it from that perspective.
Sounds great, thanks.
Also, people that normally would take their stuff in a pickup up to Waste Management, get it weighed and that, how are you going to accommodate those people?
So the contract has a $30 bulk pickup is included in the contract for $30 for each tag. Somebody can come to City Hall and pick up a tag for $30.
I thought we were going to try to negotiate that. That's pretty steep for a bed mattress or something for.
But if we did the citywide
Well,
cleanup?
as long as Waste Management keeps the transfer station open, any citizen can bring and dump their stuff there,
Right.
just like they do right now. I mean,
This was really added in there as a backup, for lack of a better way.
yeah, Waste Management doesn't provide anything special for any of the residents here, other than having the transfer station open to be able to use it.
I just had a number of people asking.
And I think.
Yeah, but you got an option. You can either take it up there, or you can have a tag and these guys can pick it up.
Right.
So actually, the people have an option of which way they want to go on it.
And I think the thought process behind the $30 price point was that's what they charge in other communities for the same service.
And that's for picking it up. I mean, that's the majority of what you're paying for. Obviously, if you haul it somewhere, it's going to be cheaper.
I'm 100% in favor of this, but my question is when do you guys plan on dropping off the?
We'll have more updates about the
dumpsters.
logistics of that as we get closer.
Okay.
Further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Thank you,
Okay.
thank you, John. Thank you.
Hannah,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Maynard,
Yes.
Prusader,
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
Weber.
Yes.
We'll be doing a
That
lot.
passes 7-0. Next, we move to item number 28. I need a motion to approve the write-offs for 2024 submitted by the Independence Light and Power. First, I need the motion.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Okay, it looks like they've made a substantial amount of progress in terms of collection. It looks like the write-off amount this year is $7,954.46, whereas last year it was $12,620.86, and the year before that is $14,746.58. So they've made a lot of progress in terms of collection itself. But annually, we have to write off the uncollectible amounts, and they've determined that those are the uncollectible amounts, so that's what the motion's about. Any discussion?
That's the light plant doing that, not us.
Correct. Did I do something wrong?
I was answering.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, it's a roll call vote.
Moore,
Yes.
Maynard,
Yes.
Prusader,
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Hannah.
Yes.
Passes 7-0. Next, we move to item number 29. I need a motion to approve and authorize the city manager to sign a 2025-2026 supplemental agreement with the Iowa Department of Transportation. I need a motion first.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Matt, you want to take this? This is the 150 on the other side of the
State
bridge?
highways.
So I'll run through. So there's a map in the packet at the very end on page 254, I think it is. But basically, it runs from the north city limits, which is just north of the Civic Center, to the north side of the bridge on the Wapsie on 150. It does not extend all the way to the southern city limits, mainly because it just never has been extended down there. I did ask the DOT when they submitted it this year about that, and they said it's just a process of extending it. The issue is If we do that, we then are responsible for pavement maintenance, we're responsible for everything for that additional remainder, and I told them I didn't feel like that was appropriate to do without council input on that. So right now, it's the same agreement as what we've signed every year.
And this would amount to an $8,321.30 in net revenue that would be coming from Iowa DOT to the city.
Right, that's what they pay us for doing the maintenance that we do on that section of the road.
Further discussion with regard to that? Hearing none, this is a roll call vote.
Maynard?
Yes.
Crusader?
Yes.
O'Laughlin?
Yes.
Jensen?
Yes.
Weber?
Yes.
Hannah?
Yes.
Moore?
Yes.
Passes 7-0. Next, we move to reports. Brett, do you have anything this week?
I have nothing, Mayor.
Deb?
So Daniel's questions that he asked, when will he get answers to those?
Daniel and I talk on a regular basis. I mean, he wanted comments from us as individuals, right? I mean, you could set up time to talk to him
On the
or
record, so anybody that watches or
call him or.
later, it's just, yeah, nice to get a summary on the record.
Okay. And then is there an update on Harding Drug, what that guy's doing?
Harding?
Above there.
Oh.
The old Harding Drug, sorry.
Spargrove?
Yeah.
We haven't heard anything recently about that.
Okay, thanks.
We are still holding funds, and we'll continue to hold those and earn interest off of those funds until he completes the project.
That's it, thank you.
The only thing I have is, a person come up to me this weekend, and if everything goes as planned, they will be closing the paperwork on Indy Cafe May 16th for a new restaurant that will be going in there.
Nice.
Will they be keeping the name, or will they be changing the name? You know?
To my knowledge, the name will be changed.
Okay.
And it is anticipated right now somewhere either at 10 or 11 o'clock in the mornings when it's going to open, and will be open at night, and on weekends they'll be running specials and have steak and stuff for people to eat.
Okay. That's good news. Matt?
I got nothing.
I have nothing, Mayor, thank you.
Just with the weather coming in, and the last time we had a substantial amount of water, I saw a lot of people driving through the water. It's not a good idea. I've lived here my whole life, and I've seen cars swept off, so be smart.
Be smart, don't drown.
I don't have anything, thank you.
Matt?
We have a walkthrough for Getney Bakery for the apartment above that scheduled on May 13th. It'll be around 2 o'clock. All the council will be invited. We will notice it. We'll do everything like we normally have done for the walkthroughs on the other facilities.
What does that fall on, Matt? You know?
That is a Tuesday at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. May 13th again is the date.
May 13th?
Yep, I'll send out information to you too. I just wanted to make everybody aware of it tonight. The only other thing I had was to thank the council members for participating and the department heads as well for participating in our strategic planning session we had on Saturday. Appreciate it.
That was nice.
It was very well.
It was very good.
Susie, anything? I don't have anything special. Anybody? We don't have any other department heads here? Okay, then I need a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 7-0. We stand adjourned.